What is a GUNNR scope? Well, apparently it's a no-compromise optic that is suitable for hunting or fighting, if need be. Are they good? If so, how good? And what are they really engineered for? Innovation? Groundbreaking technology? Folks, that's what we're here to find out today. So the first notable thing about this Odin scope is that it is a 1 to 10 power optic. That is a huge magnification range. No matter how harsh the conditions are, GUNNR always has your 6, the box says. Let's see what this scope looks like. Now inside there are some various pieces of literature and small parts in here, including a throw lever, CR32 battery, and so forth. But here's the important bit. Hey, comes with a little, this is not the important bit. Comes with a nice little bikini type see-through cover. So in a pinch, if you don't have time to take it off, you can actually shoot. Here's the scope. Odin is the model. GUNNR, GUNNR, is the make, and the magnification range is an astonishing 1 to 10 power. This has a 34mm main tube. It has a locking turret. You pull up to unlock it, and then you have 3 full rotations of upward travel on this turret. 25 minutes of angle per rotation. That's right, it's a minute of angle scope, and that is an unbelievable amount of upward travel, right? The scope is advertised to have 170 minutes of angle, of elevation, and windage adjustment. That tells me the erector housing inside, you know, that moving assembly that holds the lenses, is probably a 1-inch lens system, right? The 34mm tube does 2 things. It gives strength, and it gives lots of room for that internal mechanism to angle up or down when you dial for long range. It has an illuminated reticle, right, with a rheostat on the right side. Looks like 6 positions with off positions in between. That's nice, so you don't have to screw it all the way back to the off position on one end of its range to turn it off. Battery goes in here, just spin the cap off, put the included CR32 battery in, and you're good to go. Windage adjustments as well, and yes, they too are locking. Just push-pull to lock that in place. Front focal plane reticle, and it's kind of a good combat type, Christmas tree type reticle in there. I can see how you could shoot with that fast, but also you could use it to hold over if you didn't have time to dial. This is assuming you're practiced enough to think about things like that in the heat of the moment, right folks? So the biggest question I have about this, well, there's 3 of them, I guess. Quality and usability, and kind of related, function. So the quality, where's the scope made? You know, I don't know. I can't find in the literature anywhere where it says where the scope is made. I think we can comfortably assume Asia, and that's good enough, right? What's notable is that GUNNR lists in its literature, as it should, this is a big feather in its cap, that the glass is shot glass. Now this is not shot glass as in tequila, friends. This is German glass, SCHOTT, ED, I believe that's extra low dispersion, and it's considered the best, or at least among the very best. Nothing is better glass in the world for optics. That's pretty significant. The construction looks good. So as far as the quality of you know, the mechanics and so forth, the clicks are nice and crisp. I like the design with the locking caps, and so far there's nothing not to like about it. My biggest question in functionality now comes from that zoom range. This particular version is a 1 to 10 power. Incredible range. You start at a true 1 power where there's no magnification. You can look through it, both eyes open, and shoot no magnification. This is a very, very fast way to use an optic. I would keep the illumination on if I was doing that, because when you're zoomed all the way down to 1 power, that reticle inside gets pretty darn small, and having a point of light to aim with, big help. All the way up, it goes to 10 power. So a 10 times zoom mechanism. That's incredible, folks. How well does it work is the primary question. Now, I once had a technician at a premium scope company. I was able to interview him. It was Leupold, and we were talking about the VX5, which has a 5 times magnification range, versus the VX6, which, as the name suggests, has a 6 times magnification range. And the engineer told me that to get a 6 times zoom in the VX6, they had to really, really work to get it to maintain clarity at both ends. He said, you start reaching a point of diminishing returns when you start stretching out a magnification range that far. That's why those classic like 3 to 9 power scopes, that's a 3 times zoom, and they maintain their quality, their clarity, their light transferring ability, and avoid distortion. Okay? You don't want the glass to distort the image when you look through it. And when you stretch out a magnification zoom range past about 5 times, even the best engineers in the world have to work to minimize that that dispersion and that distortion. So, how good did GUNNR do with this Odin that has a 10 times zoom? I'm going to be real honest. I think it's best in the middle of its range. It's got a sweet spot from about, let's call it 3 to 8 power or 2 to 8 power, something like that, where there's very low distortion. If I look through this on 1 power, I can see a lot. It's got a very good field of view, right? And the clarity in the center is pretty good, but as I pan left and right, the image in the plane seems to do this whoop on that side, then it's clear across the middle, and whoop on the other side. Same thing if I go up and down. So there is distinct distortion at each end of the magnification spectrum in this optic. It's kind of unavoidable in engineering terms. One other thing I've noticed is, just as with a spotting scope or whatnot, when you zoom an optic in or out, you may have to finesse the focus just a little bit. If you keep your zoom at a 5 times or less range, you're probably not going to have to adjust your focus. But in this 1 to 10 power, to get good clarity at both the bottom and then again at the top end, so 10 power, I have to adjust the little eye focus piece to get it as clear as possible. And last caveat, on 10 power, this scope is not particularly clear. Really what I see is a lot of distortion at 1 power and a lack of clarity and crispness at 10 power. But the mid-ranges are great, folks. And if you need to shoot fast and close with that 1 power setting, you're probably not all that concerned about distortion. You're more concerned about a wide field of view and speed. I think this scope would provide that. Weight is about 24 ounces. If I made my conversion right, they listed in grams, 685 grams. I'm American, come on folks. I had to get out the calculator. Price for this scope is $620. You can add GUNNR's own kind of cool skeletonized 7075 aluminum. This is premium aluminum, both of these products are made out of. You can add this awesome cantilever mount that's correctly positioned height-wise for AR-type firearms for an additional $60. So you spend $680 from this direct from GUNNR. You can buy this mount as well alone for $90. Great product. So is there a different option maybe from GUNNR that I would recommend over this scope? Not really, because this has some cool features, and that boundary pushing 10 times zoom is actually pretty cool. It does come with baggage, but every boundary pushing effort does, right? There is a scope that's a 1 to 6 that I'd love to work with. I haven't had a chance to look at one yet, but I think you would probably find there's almost no distortion in that scope. And for a, you know, an AR type firearm, about 6 power is about all I'll ever need personally. So anyway, we're going to put this one on a fine little AR type 308. It's Ruger's SF small frame AR in a 308 caliber. So that's another groundbreaking, innovative type design. We're going to pair an innovative scope with an innovative rifle and go shoot them. We'll see how the scope holds up over a couple hours of use as far as, well, not just durability. I don't have any worries about that. And by the way, no questions asked, lifetime warranty with this scope. What I mean is how my eye will hold up. I have very sensitive optical nerves, and any optic that imparts a lot of eye strain gives me a headache real quick. It's like an awful built-in gauge for lens quality. I anticipate no problems whatsoever with this because it has that extremely good shot ED glass. We're also going to challenge the turrets by shooting the square, which is kind of a cool traditional exercise to see how reliably and accurately a scope dials. So it's going to be fun. We'll see you on the range, folks. All right, we've got the GUNNR Odin scope mounted on this Ruger SF AR in 308. And as you can see, it looks right at home, folks. The eye relief is good. Where I've got it set, the height above the action is good so that it lines right up with my eye when I throw it up to aim with it. We're gonna go ahead and do a shooting exercise on a target that is called shooting the square. It's an old traditional scope test where you'll get sighted in and then you dial down several inches and over several inches. We're gonna do 4 inches just because we're gonna be trying to hit in these circles more or less. You'll dial down 4, over 4, then you'll dial up 8, over 8, down 8, and then you'll dial back to center and see if you hit in the same group as your very initial one. So it'll be a fun way to see how consistent this scope is and how accurate the clicks are in the turret, right? Now, I've brought some Hornady 155 grain bullets match loads for this rifle. I have no idea how well it shoots them. We might have sub-inch groups, we might have 2 to 3 inch groups, but we will use whatever we get. And we will get the information we can with this system. It's going to be fun. All right, as you can probably hear, it is windy out here. Here are the groups, and there's some interesting stuff, but the good news is it looks like the scope did great. All right, so right here in the middle, you can see my first and my last 3-shot groups after zeroing the gun perfectly. Now, this is not 2 separate 3-shot groups. There's 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, and 3. With the windy conditions, I would say that rifle returned to zero, or that scope, the GUNNR scope, returned to zero just perfectly. So this was my first 3-shot group right here. After adjusting the scope down and right 4 inches. Then I came left 8 inches, and as you can see, I got a much better group. I'm calling that me. You know, I'm human. I shoot as well as I can, but again, windy and whatnot. I came up 8 inches and shot this group right here. Then right 8 inches and shot this group. You look at these, we're averaging less than an inch for most of these groups. Fantastic. Then I brought the scope down 4, left 4, and fired my final 3-shot group. I'd say the GUNNR Odin scope shot the square beautifully well. I'm impressed. All right, now that the dust has settled, how did the GUNNR Odin 1-10 power scope shake out? You know, folks, I'm pretty impressed. It adjusted accurately and true to the dimensions that the clicks should adjust. The zero stop is easy to set, and of course it's got that zero locking turret, which I'm a huge fan of. Yes, there's some distortion at the high end and the low end. Down at 1 power and up at 10 power, there's some optical distortion. That's just part of the territory in pushing boundaries with that huge of a zoom range. Price at 620 bucks, I think is reasonable. You probably find it for less than out on sale now and then. And I think the 1 to 6 and 1 to 8 power versions would be well worth checking out as well. Just to go over, because the wind was so bad last night when I was wrapping up, here's the target where I shot the square. So I sighted in here, right? Got a 3-shot group. Then I adjusted down and right 4 inches. And I really think this was mostly me, right? There's a lot of wind, but hey, I'm human. I'm not always a perfect shooter, right? Then I adjusted it left 8 inches, and look at that. Great group there. Up 8 inches, pretty decent group. Right 8 inches, another great group. Probably more about the gun than me at this point. And then down and left 4 inches, and I landed 3 more shots right in that same group. By the way, if you can see this real clearly, we don't have 2 separate 3-shot groups that are, you know, half-inch groups or whatever. It was 1, 2, and 3, and then 1, 2, and 3 for the groups that started and ended that shooting the square process to test the GUNNR Odin scope. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good optic.